I had in specific two instances of what I would call kind of research on campus. One was through search in second year summers, and one was my fourth year undergraduate project. So in my search project, I worked with Professor Amit Kumar Verma from electrical engineering, and we worked on uh, characterization of phase transition materials such as vanadium dioxide. So it was mostly an experience of setting up experiments. So it was not much of exploring into actual devices and materials, things like that. I did have to research a bit on how those things work to be able to understand how to design those experiments. But it was mostly an experimental design. We have to manufacture experimental setup which is very easy, which is very cheap actually. So that was our aim. So we were able to, so there were two parts of the project, like two things we have to do, and we were able to do one thing, but the other thing was very difficult using at least cheap components. We had to get to expensive stuff. So that was a failure on the second part, but success on the first part. So that was a very good experience. That was like, experimentation is one thing I feel that research is very much concerned with always, and having experimentation, uh, you know, experience was very cool. The other thing was more simulation based. In my UGP, I had to simulate an RFID based chip, which was like the idea was that we were trying to explore why RF. So there is a whole new field called printable electronics. So there is a push that electronics should be more and more printable in the future. So my professor was Professor Bakir Mazari, again from electrical engineering. He has been, taking all my electrical engineering circuits courses like for our batch. So I worked with him, and the aim was to, understand why printable RFIDs are not still a thing. What is the problem, which is, the community facing as of now. So I it was very challenging for me because I was not so much used to simulations. uh, it was a completely new, although I had come from an intern which was completely simulation based. Since it was a new simulation environment and new things were expected, so it was very difficult for me to actually come up with the solution to how to simulate stuff. So that was very difficult, and developing an understanding of an entirely new field on RFIDs was wireless, which is a very advanced field in terms of electrical engineering circuits. So it was a both the experience was challenging and cool for me, but I think I could have done better in both of those. So yeah, it was the constant, limitations professors put on our learning in undergrad courses. So circuits did really, out of all electrical engineering, it was probably because we had a good professor for circuits. So it is so it was like he intrigued me a lot about circuits, and that's why I developed a keen interest in it. But it was always like whenever I asked a question about what why does this happen, how would you, so for example, we talk in a digital circuits course, he talked about how we clock the circuits, like you need, like for processors you need high frequency clocks like gigahertz clocks, right? So I asked him, how do you generate clocks? He was like, you asked a question which even a PhD of my lab cannot answer at this moment. So I was like, okay, I probably need to do a master's to understand those things and actually understand the circuits I'm working with, even if I go to industry. So that's why I thought that, okay, if these are the limitations I'm being put on, going through the industry might help me with those, but understanding them academically would be more fruitful to me, and I would also be able to learn them under a research environment, and that would be more conducive to that learning. So that's why I pursued my MS.